Hey, what's happening, gamers? How's everybody doing? Welcome back to the Road to Mario Kart World. This is our 15th episode in our long-running series. And tomorrow, after the Nintendo Direct, which is already causing waves in the industry because Nintendo has disabled the comments for the 15 to 30-minute video. And it just shows that they're so out of touch. Even former Nintendo employees are like face-palming. Kit and Krista are very surprised by how Nintendo's handling all this because they haven't once tried to reach out to their fans and be like, hey, you know. So, I mean, basically what's happening, we've been talking about this for about a week, is we're back in the Yamaguchi era. The only problem is we don't have a way to make ends meet with how, like, we could in the 90s. Like, cost of games were too expensive, make it a blockbuster night, you know? Cost of games are now expensive here. It's like Gamefly's kind of terrible. Gamefly's not really a really good option for people.
Half the time you send the games back for Gamefly, they get, quote, lost in the mail, and then you have to pay for them full price.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I don't like. I don't know if Gamefly still does mail stuff, but I thought that that's how they used to do it, where you sent it back in the mail. And half the time they would send it to your house, and you would never get it in the mail. And then they charge you for it.
Yep.
And you never even got it.
Exactly.
That's what I didn't like about Gamefly, was it's just... That's why I think we eventually stopped it, was because half the time it kept getting lost in the mail.
Well, they also kept paying us, or they also kept charging us for stuff. It was super annoying.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, they just charge you for stuff because it's, quote, lost when you sent it back.
Okay.
Or at the point, I thought at one point, if you were a week late, they would just charge you for the entire game.
Yeah, that too.
Which I hated because it was like, well, sometimes if I couldn't find it, it's like, oh, darn it. It's a lot. It's definitely stressful. Like, what I didn't like is how it came in a very, and I guess Gamefly still does it, but it's like, it comes in this like very small CD thing, so it can easily get lost in a pile of envelopes.
Yep, that's
like,
true.
Whereas if you order a VCR from Blockbuster, it's very hard to lose that chunky thing.
Yeah, you could even rent game systems back in the day. When I worked for Blockbuster, we allowed people to rent like the N64, the PlayStation, and the Dreamcast, I believe. Something like that. Of course, I mean, in all honesty, it would have been... these people are funny. Because like, they'd come in, they'd spend like over $100 to rent like several games in the system, and I took one of them aside once. I was like, you know, if you just took that money you did just now and you could have put it toward the system, and then a week later you could have owned the whole thing and a couple games instead of you coming here, you know, every 2 weeks and renting it. And the person did eventually do that, and they, you know, said, man, I took your advice, and, you know, after like only like I think it was like, it was less than 2 weeks, the guy said he got a Dreamcast and like 3 games. And he was like, you have Dreamcast games to rent that I don't have, though. It's like, well, yeah, of course, you want to rent the games, but...
But yeah, renting the system is a lot, probably.
Yeah, he was like my #1 Dreamcast customer, like at that Blockbuster. Because we kept Dreamcast in rotation as a renting option until at least like 2002, I think. Something like that.
Yeah.
You could still find some Dreamcast games. But once the Xbox came out, then we had to yeet the Dreamcast selection because no one was renting it, obviously.
Yeah.
And I just pointed that guy toward Funko Land or whatever after that. If you're looking for old games, go to Funko Land, because you're not going to find Dreamcast at EB Games or Blockbuster anymore. So, Retro Specialty Tour and Rockford is what you want.
Yeah, and thank you guys for the 117 likes.
Oh, yeah.
I think we have to put a next like goal up there when we get a chance.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
They're way over 100.
So last night I did a poll, guys, about like this issue with the Switch. And I haven't had that many people on the poll, but I've noticed a pattern. So I asked people, I was like, hey, what are the 3 big things from Nintendo that you were the most mad about? Like, why? And I use that as a consensus to be like, this is what real gamers are like. This is why gamers are upset. So the 3 options was the cost of the console, which 1% voted. The cost or the bumbling PR of Nintendo, like Nintendo's failed marketing, that was another option. That only came to 2% of the vote. And then I said the cost of each individual game, and that came to 80% of the vote. So out of all the people that were there that voted, the reason why most people are upset with Nintendo, which this is how out of touch Nintendo is, they're not mad at the price of the system. Everybody believes that the cost of the system is fair. $400, $500, fine. The reason why a lot of people are going to YouTube's page, or not YouTube's page, Nintendo's page and Nintendo's Twitter, and saying drop the price, they're talking about the price of each individual game.
Yeah.
That's what they're talking about. They want Nintendo because their system is more or less the same as a, PS4 Pro and an Xbox Series S or whatever, in terms of like whatever. They want the software to be equivalent to what they would have to pay for a PS5 or an Xbox game. And I think that is a fair, thing. I think that based on the fact that the market went up, 6 years ago or whatever to $69.99 for games, then that's a fair thing. It makes sense that people would want to pay the same amount that they're paying for the newest Xbox and PlayStation games.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Yeah, so on your poll, you had written there, the price of the system,
Yep.
the price of the games,
Yep.
or Nintendo's way of dealing with their PR.
Yep.
Well, I was just thinking about pricing, because the only thing I'm familiar with was how they told us to price in culinary, where they said, you need to take the price of the cost of your food, like all the ingredients, and then you need to multiply it times 3, and that should be the price of your meal, because people have to pay for your expertise and the time you've spent going to school to learn to cook this. You have to pay for all the use of the equipment and everything. And so they said sometimes people don't want to pay that, but you have to charge that because that's how much it costs you to make it. So I don't know if do you think that they're charging the amount that it costs them to make those games, or do you think they're overcharging?
They're overcharging. They are 100% overcharging because, like, a Nintendo insider said, somebody who used to work at Nintendo, they said that by doing the pay scale of Sony and Microsoft right now for software, they would make, a little bit of profit. By raising the individual cost of the games to where they are right now, not only are they changing the industry standard, which the standard will change based on what Nintendo did. Mm-hmm. Like, you watch next year Sony, or when the next system comes out, Sony's going to charge like close to $100 a game. Maybe
the reason why it's changing because of Nintendo is Nintendo was the lowest prices for games.
No, that doesn't. No, the Switch 2 is really good technology, but it doesn't warrant a $10 to $11 increase in like overall prices for games. It's not.
Is it because of Nintendo saving the game industry that people just do whatever they say, like whatever they do, they just follow their lead?
No, not necessarily, but like Nintendo doesn't have a right to do that either, because
yeah.
And also, like, Nintendo got a pass for doing that in the 80s and 90s because that was within that era. That was over 40 years ago now.
What about, say, Xbox or say Sony raised the price of their games?
They're
Say they did it before Nintendo. Do you think everyone would have followed them?
They would have complained. Like, people right now, like even the $69.99 a game is still kind of steep.
So basically, I don't know. So
Because when you get 2 games for $69.99, that's over like $100.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
That's way over.
Of course.
So now with Nintendo doing $80 a game for most of their games,
Yeah.
a lot of their games are $79.99. When you add on the cost of software, you're going anywhere from spending like maybe $100 for 2 games. Now you're spending close to $200 a game almost.
I wonder if Sony had done the same thing, if they had raised the price to $80 or $90 and then people screamed drop the price and they didn't drop the price. I wonder if the whole game industry would then follow suit. I wonder if it would be the same thing if Sony did it, but I don't know. I wonder if they would have dropped the price though. I feel like maybe Sony would have catered to their fans.
No. The only way Sony dropped the price for the PS3 is because they feared a massive boycott. So they found ways of doing cost-cutting measures of the PS3 so it didn't cost $700 at release or something like that.
In Japan, like you said that they're doing basically they're doing a price thing sort of like how they did in Japan where each game is a different price. So is Mario Kart World, isn't that the one that's 80 that people are talking about? Like for instance, like
No,
is that
they're not just talking about that with 80, they're talking
a
about
lot of them.
Donkey Kong, Kirby is 80, all this
wow.
stuff. Yeah.
So for example, Mario Kart World, would you say is that going to be $80 in Japan? Like the same price as $80?
I don't know how many yen it's going to be in Japan.
Like, is it going to be overpriced in Japan? And are they going to have some games that are like $40? Or like, what do they mean variable pricing? Like,
Okay,
how is
explain.
it going to be variable? Are some going to be super cheap then? I don't really understand.
Okay, I'll explain variable pricing for you in the Japanese game market, okay? So variable pricing in Japan is they don't have a set metric for like what each individual game releases as. Whereas Reggie, for 20 years in America, he made sure that the games, the MSRP, was basically a set price that Nintendo could not charge above this, and they could charge below it if they wanted to for games they want to put on sale or special promotions, things like that. So the MSRP in America for 20 years for Nintendo games was $49.99, and then with Switch, by like around 2018, it started to raise to $59.99 and went up by 10.
I remember some of the games I got on Switch, the last couple of years were $59.99.
And then Sony used that $10 increase as the standard. Or actually, that always was the standard with Sony and Xbox for quite a while. It was always $59. You were paying for high definition games.
$60.
Yeah, $60. So then what Sony did when they released the PS5, they were trying to tell people, well, because this is brand new technology, the cost of our software is now going to be $69.99. It's going up by 10.
Yeah.
And people were like, kind of, well, I guess that's kind of reasonable. But then Microsoft...
Now it's at the limit, where it's at everyone's limit.
Yeah, kind of. So Microsoft, 6 months later, they announced that the cost of their Xbox Series S games would be going up as well. To also, $69.99. So now, Nintendo, following suit with their new console, they're like, well... thinking
so they're just keep raising it
because if they can raise the software costs, then they'll make more money.
From what it looks like to me, it appears that what they mean by variable pricing, if I'm reading what they're saying, it feels like what they're saying is the variation is between $70 and $90.
Yes.
That seems to be the variation because it doesn't seem like there's going to be anything under $70. Like I was thinking variable as in some games are going to be 30.
There are some games
some games are going to be 40.
There are some Switch games. There are some Switch 2 games that are coming out that are $59.99 and $69.99.
But not many.
Not many, no.
Not many. It seems like the major titles are going to be $70 to $90.
For games that are... This is a weird thing. So games that are 3 years old, developers are re-releasing them on Switch 2, but they're not charging $80 for it. Third parties are actually charging people for a game that's like 4 years old at like $49.99. Like, Nintendo is charging almost $80 for a game that is only like 2 years old, like Tears of the Kingdom. Whereas, most people, when they release a remastered game, they do not raise the price, they lower the price because the game already exists on the market. This is just a higher resolution version of the same game. So they price it accordingly because they know that they can't release it at full price, but they're trying to release it again to make ends meet or to try to sell more, copies of that game.
Try to cash in.
Exactly. Street Fighter, Capcom is known for doing that as well. Capcom will release like new collections with all the DLC and everything else, and they'll try to either go $10 below the original price or $15 below the original price. They don't raise it $15 or $10 above its original price when they released it because they realize that game is older. This is like the third or fourth time they've printed the same Street Fighters. We'll use it as example. Street Fighter 6, by the time it's done, will probably have like at least 3 re-releases. Okay?
Yeah.
Eventually, you're going to get a Street Fighter 6 Ultimate Edition that's going to contain all the DLC. It's going to have all the skins, all that other stuff that they offered when they were doing that stuff, and they're going to sell it as a complete version of Street Fighter 6. They did it with Street Fighter 4, they did it with Street Fighter 5, they did it with Street Fighter 3. They always do that. Once they are done with all their DLC, all their whatever, additional stuff, all the unlockable characters, they're going to release a version of the game that is going to have everything in the box.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to sell
more.
it. They're not going to sell it for more. They'll sell it a little bit less because they want to sell it because they realize, well, people already own this game.
Yeah.
But if they want this game for their collection, then
it's like putting it on sale, but then re-releasing it at the same time.
But they're still making money on the same game again. It's just it's a cheaper version. Nintendo doesn't do that.
Yeah. It's like the third-party developers are being more sane than Nintendo is.
If you go to Amazon right now, what is the price of Breath of the Wild? Like, it's around probably $59 or $69.99, right? Like, if you were to go to Amazon right now, the original Breath of the Wild game that came out in 2017 did not have its price loaded.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're charging for a higher resolution version of the game.
Yeah.
Like $60 or $70.
So before Iwata came, wasn't Nintendo like losing money or?
Yes.
And that was because of the what was the last system before Iwata came then that was causing them to lose so much money?
N64 and GameCube.
So was that because they were making it too expensive for the games? Or?
Nope. Both the N64 and the GameCube were making it too challenging for developers to make software for. So what happened with both N64 and GameCube is they ran out of third-party support. Also, Yamaguchi, in 1996, he yelled at 3 game developers, and those developers did not really have support on the system. He lambasted Capcom until they were able to get, Mega Man Legends on the N64, which was a gutted version of Mega Man Legends on PlayStation. So they did that. And he basically burned down bridges with Square, and Square stopped making Game Boy games. Square did not work on the new Game Boy Advance at the time. They came in later, when Iwata was in power again.
Yeah.
And they also they messed up support for the N64. If you go back and you look at the N64, I'm pretty sure there's no Square game on the N64.
Yeah, the Final Fantasy VII, did it come to the N64 eventually? Or
No.
Oh, it was?
The plan was Final Fantasy VII was going to come to the N64 in a limited capacity. They were trying to, because Square's biggest partner for, almost 25 years at that point was Nintendo. Nintendo is what, helped Square release their game Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And, they had a very tight relationship. Like, Square's powerhouse sales all came from the Super Nintendo originally.
I thought the cutscenes didn't work well.
No, the cutscenes would never work on the N64.
Yeah.
N64 could not do full motion video. It could not render cutscenes the way that PlayStation could, because PlayStation had more memory because instead of a cartridge, you had a disc.
Yeah.
The disc was able to print more stuff on the disc, which the system was able to read, and it could run the games smoother.
Yeah.
The N64 could not handle the pre-rendered graphics based on how they were running real-time graphics. So anything that looked 3D looked better on the N64 compared to PlayStation. PlayStation's 3D looked very blurry and blocky and whatever.
Oh, but then the cutscenes weren't working.
The cutscenes worked fine on PlayStation. But yeah, so a lot of Nintendo 64 couldn't have a lot of games on it because even there was a game called Nightmare Creatures that was set in the time of like merry old London, and you played as a dude in a trench coat and a female character, and it was a very popular franchise that was on PlayStation at the time. It was called Nightmare Creatures. They had 3 games.
Yeah.
They only had 1 game that they could release on the N64 because the developers wrote at the time that the N64 was a nightmare to publish for. Like, they struggled with the developer kit, they struggled with getting the game onto the system itself, and they did say, we managed to make our game look better than when Nightmare Creatures released on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
The fog looked better, the 3D detail was sharper and crisper, the music sounded better, all that other stuff, but they said we had to cut the cutscenes. We couldn't add our cutscenes.
Yeah.
So there's no cutscenes in the game whatsoever. There's no voice acting either.
So, yeah, so the N64 was better for 3D gameplay, but not good for cutscenes.
Right. So a lot of people were very excited when Nintendo announced that they were going to do a disc-based system with the GameCube. The problem with the GameCube is, once again, Yamaguchi wanted to go with a gimmick. So the gimmick would be the GameCube would be smaller but more powerful than everything else, but the discs, in order to prevent piracy, which was a thing back then, I'm not going to lie, game piracy was very big ever since 1995. 1995, most people would either rent a video game or they would buy it and return it the same day, like making up some bogus thing that there was a problem with the game and the game didn't run. And after they burned the game using a CD burner. So Nintendo was very concerned about piracy. So what they did is they made a system where it'd be impossible to pirate. The GameCube discs was not done as a way to necessarily be like, haha, GameCube is different because we have this gimmick of small discs. The small discs were done because not many people in America had the ability to burn a full game with a tiny disc. You could only do it with a larger disc, like a regular size CD.
Yeah.
And so Nintendo was smart in that regard, but developers did not like them for that because it made it very hard for them to compress all the data in a game and small size onto the GameCube.
It would have been interesting if they had been able to put like a lock on the data, like so that they couldn't burn it.
The small disc was the lock.
Okay.
Eventually, PlayStation found methods of stopping piracy by doing something to the PS2 discs, but when the PS2 first came out, up until, I'd probably say like around 2003, it was very possible for you to go to a Blockbuster, rent the PS2 game, and burn it in one night and return it the next day without anybody knowing any different. In the early 90s, when someone would try to burn a PlayStation game, what would happen is the disc would get damaged. So when people were returning it to retail...
then they'd have to pay for it.
No! When they were returning it to retail, they would tell people it was faulty because, you know, the clerk would look at the disc and the disc would be ruined. So they would get a full refund for basically stealing the game.
It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So they would ruin the company property, and then they would destroy their property, and they would get it for free.
Exactly. So they would keep the game, and they would have the game running. Like, piracy was a big deal for video games.
That didn't hurt PlayStation in the end because their system sold more.
Yeah, their system sold more because people were buying their system to pirate games. Like, everybody was in the little community that I lived in New York, like near Albany. Out of everybody that lived in that neighborhood when I was like a teenager, there was like 30 houses. Out of the 30 like houses in that gated community, I would say that probably 22 kids had done PlayStation piracy. And these were people that were middle class. These are people that could afford the games. And
they just didn't feel like...
Well, I mean, that was game culture back then. It was very easy to go to a store, buy the full game, have the thing overnight, because most stores had a 24-hour policy for returns. They've changed, Walmart and people changed it later, but like it was a store policy of like 24 hours. If you buy anything in that store and it doesn't work, then you get a full refund. So eventually what companies did, because there were news stories about piracy and all this other stuff, when you would put a PlayStation disc inside of your computer and the CD-ROM would burn it, what it would do is it would make rings around the disc.
That's terrible.
So what companies would start to do is they would take a magnifying glass and they would hold up, like around 2001, they would hold up the disc and they would see if there's any type of like additional rings that aren't supposed to be there, because then they'd be able to tell that the person basically burned the game and they're not going to offer them a refund.
Yeah, and plus they should charge them for the game since...
No, they already charged them for the game. It was to return the game and say it was faulty.
Oh.
So the companies, especially EB Games, started to do that. Is they would use a magnifying glass to see if they could see like any...
Oh, they would buy the game and then return it?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep, and when that didn't work because Blockbuster was so, like, you know, old with their methods, they would just do Blockbuster. So, like, from 1995 until about 1998, something like that, 97, 98, that's what people were doing with PlayStation games. They were buying them at full price, burning them, and then returning them. And then companies started new policies for piracy.
That's horrible, because I bet Sony benefited, but I bet the third-party people that made games for them lost a lot of money from that.
I mean, they already sold the game, even if the game got returned, you know.
So, the game stores lost money then?
Yeah, the only companies that made a lot of money were the rental stores, because people would, you know, people started to get a conscience, like by 1997, 1998, and they started to rent the games off Blockbuster, so they were, you know, they were renting it, and then they were paying for the rental, and then they would be like, okay, that's about the cost, because CDs in a pack, you could buy a pack of blank CDs for $15, and you would get 25 blank CDRs. And then out of that 15, you know, people would go and they would rent. I eventually got a conscience by like 2000, because I worked for EB Games. So when I started to work for EB Games, that's when I stopped doing what everybody else was doing, which was burning games. So it was like right around 2001, 2000 that I stopped doing it. But I was guilty of doing it from like 1990, probably 8 until around 2000, and then I grew a conscience. And then I started telling my friends, hey guys, this is kind of wrong. This is like theft. They're like, how's it theft? It's like, we're buying the product, and then we're returning it. And it's like, or others are like, we're renting it for the whole week, man. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way anymore. It's just, I felt convicted about it. I was like, just because everybody's doing it doesn't make it right. You know? And then when I worked for the company, when I worked for EB Games, it's like, I was the one that was basically looking to see if people were stealing the games. And,
oh,
you know,
so you were an expert on knowing.
Well, yeah,
what
because
to look for.
I had done it. So that's how I was, you know, close to getting the promotion as assistant managers, because I was helping like derail theft and stuff like that, because I knew what to look for. So, you know,
doesn't it ruin the game with
yes,
the ring on it?
It does. It did ruin the game because it would create additional rings. Like, because what you're doing is when you were copying the game through a CD-ROM, like a burner, it's literally burning the information onto your computer. So it's like a very hard, like, Xerox copy, basically. And it would ruin the disc, because the disc is spinning in an unnatural way that causes, you know, damage to it.
When you burn CDs onto your computer, does it ruin the CD?
No, because it wasn't, like,
it's
that type.
Different for a game?
It was a different type of, there's so much data on the CD compared to music. Music doesn't... Music was just easy to do because, like, well, yeah, people use the same method for copying, like, music to digital or whatever. But the disc didn't have as much data on it, so there was no risk to the disc. Like, literally, when you would burn a CD for a PlayStation game, it would be in your CD burner almost all night. The process would take about 4 to 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
So you would get your program started. It was called Burner or something. And you would have the program on your PC. And then the disc would sit in there and it'd make like a loud like noise like for hours, because it's like taking all the data. It's like a very, very loud. You know how loud like CDs used to run inside computers?
Yeah.
It was like 5 times louder than that.
I wish we had a CD burner, because my dad really needs to get stuff that's on a little portable, a little thumb drive onto like a CD, and I don't have a CD burner. I wish I could find a computer that had it.
That technology is old, and also, I mean, that technology led to piracy. So, I mean, it's not like that.
There must be somebody who has there must be a computer.
There are old computers that probably have CD burners in them.
Maybe if I bought an old computer used at some point and he came to the house, I could burn it for him if he came here.
What most people do nowadays...
It's an important music event with all...
I know. Most people, what they do is they don't burn a disc. Nowadays, like, if you still have CDs, there was a way to get the music off the CD and get it in an MP3.
No,
but I don't know how to do that.
He wants it off the MP3 onto a CD.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that anymore. But yeah, so you know how the FBI hires, like, really smart thieves to, you know, catch other thieves? That's what it kind of felt when EB Games was getting all these, like, former software pirates to work for them. Because it's like you have, like, the bad guys are now working for the good company. So, because we knew what to look for. But it was a very real thing. The only reason PlayStation was so big in the United States is because people were stealing the games. Like, and people my age remember doing that, you know? It was just normal. It didn't matter if you were poor or rich, everybody did it. It was just easy. You save up for the system, then you go to Blockbuster, or if you want to do the really shady thing, like most of us just like rented the game because it was easier, instead of paying full price and trying to get your refund back, because people were starting to get arrested at stores. So it's like Blockbuster had like...
Oh, they got arrested.
Oh, of course, because it's piracy. You probably don't remember this, but like, there was an issue by the FBI in like 1997, 1998.
I do remember.
Where like there were commercials
warning
about piracy and things like that.
Before every movie, it would say piracy is a crime.
Right, because piracy was becoming a big thing for the film industry and the game industry, and it was in full force by like 97, 98. So like when you would go to the movie theater, when you would go on to certain gaming websites, they would have like FBI warnings about like piracy and stuff like that. And that was also when ROMs, there was another form of piracy for games, it was called ROMs, where people were uploading original NES, Super Nintendo, and Genesis games and gutting them into a digital format and having them on websites where people could download them for free. So that was another form of video game piracy. But video game piracy was very big from like 1996 until probably around 98, something like that. Most people stopped doing it around 98, 99. And then when people were going to jail by like 98, 99, less and less people started to do it because there was no consequences.
Even if you burn like one game, you would go to jail?
If you get caught, yeah, because
wow.
It's stealing.
Oh
you don't own that game, and also like, you know, you don't. That's why there are some retro gamers that they don't want to display their PlayStation collection if you ask them, because a good majority of them, their PlayStation collection, is burned discs. It just has a black marker with the name of the game on it.
Wow.
Yep. But here's the funny thing. Xbox actually encouraged people. They made it so that there was no lock on the discs. So, like, piracy started up again for Xbox when it first came out in 2002. And then by 2004, Xbox started to put measures in. But they literally allowed people to CD burn Xbox games as well as burn the entire Xbox game onto your hard drive because they were trying to sell systems. And eventually they added methods where they're like, okay. But Nintendo saw all this stuff happening, and so they're like, if we make the small discs, what is the risk of piracy? It was very low. Because tiny discs was more expensive to burn. Like most American families, a CD burner was $100. Blank CDs was like $15. So it was very cost effective to do that. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
So Nintendo, a lot of people say, oh, the discs were a gimmick. It's like, they were, as a way, you know, to be like, look at our cool GameCube disc, cutting-edge technology. But it was also mainly used to prevent piracy because nobody could steal the GameCube games. You couldn't even put the GameCube games in your computer because of how small they were. You would have to buy an additional like CD reader that could read small data discs or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there were two types of discs that were in circulation in the 90s. You had the big discs, like the regular CD format, and you had the smaller discs. And the smaller discs didn't go to market very well. So if you wanted technology for your business to use smaller discs, you would have to pay an exorbitant amount in order to get the equipment to not read, but copy the data.
Oh, wow.
So for most people who were doing the software piracy of the 90s, it was too expensive. It would be the difference between $150, $100 burner, like to install on your PC, and like paying like $300 or $400.
Was it more expensive for the game companies to make the discs also?
For the GameCube, yes.
So it took them more money.
What they ended up doing when Nintendo had their small disc system is the developers were put back into the year 1995, where there wasn't enough room on the discs, so that's why you would have multi-discs released for PlayStation. That's why Final Fantasy VII had like 3 discs, is because they couldn't fit all the data for the entire game on one disc. So that's why PlayStation fans remember swapping the discs for a lot of games, especially really lengthy RPGs.
So how did that even work? Because what if you were playing a game and then you went ahead to the next area of the story and then you realize, oh, I left something back at like the first area. Could you go back home to your first area?
Okay,
You'd have to put the disc in again?
For Final Fantasy, if you wanted to go back and revisit a location, and this wasn't for every Final Fantasy game, but some of them, you would have to go back to the town where you were. That is basically the joint between the first disc and the second disc.
Yeah.
And you would go to that place, and then there would be a prompt that would come up on your TV that would say, in order to continue to this area, you need to put in disc number 1.
Oh, I see.
But it didn't always work that way, because sometimes the discs were just that first part of the game and the chapter was over and you couldn't go back and complete stuff.
Oh,
you would have had to complete all
back.
as a completionist, you would have to complete all the quests before you went to the next disc.
Before you put the second disc in.
But it was possible.
Yeah.
So the problem with the multi-discs, though, let's say you bought a copy of Final Fantasy VII, and you're playing the game, and you've got a rough little brother or something like that.
Yeah.
And you need to go to the next disc, but the second disc is ruined.
Oh my god.
Now you have to go to the store. There's no such thing as replacement, you know. You
have to buy the
you have to
whole
buy the
thing.
whole thing over again, yep.
So if one disc was messed up.
So Sony realized that was a bad thing, so when they made the PS2, they improved the quality of the discs. Not only did they make piracy harder, but they also made the quality of the discs stronger. It was like a type of DVD CD now that, you know, had like a scratch coating on it to prevent it from getting as messed up. They also, because of how powerful the PS2 was, the discs itself, like, wouldn't get as damaged. You'd have to, like, take a key to it and really mess with it, you know?
Yeah.
It wouldn't just be from wear and tear as much as the original PlayStation discs. And we have original PlayStation discs. Just from using them, like, there's tons of scratches on them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, basically, Nintendo, because they were so far behind in their arrogance, Yamaguchi, when he had the small discs, like, the technology wasn't the best. So the discs, because they were smaller, they would get damaged more easily. You would have to be very, very careful how you put the GameCube disc into the system. And so a lot of kids, when I worked at the game store, parents would come in all the time saying, hey, this second disc for Ninja Turtles doesn't work anymore. And I was like, well, let me look at that. And I said, well, we have this game used if you want to buy it again. And they're like, what? Why would I have to buy it again? Can't you fix it? It's like, no, this disc is ruined. So unfortunately, your kid can't play the next section of the game. So, you know, since you have to buy the game again anyway, instead of going full price, he said, I would be like, hey, and I was a really good salesman. I was like, look at this disc here compared to yours. This is a used disc that you can pay like $10 less than its market price.
Right.
And this is your disc. Your disc is never going to work. In fact, if you trade this in, I will let you trade this in, and I will give you a stored credit of like $20. But I have to throw this disc out because this is ruined.
Right.
So I would give them store credit. I would get the pre-sale or whatever it was called. Plus, I would sell the disc used. Like they would have to buy the whole thing again or whatever. But you know, the parents walked out happy because they got the second disc of Ninja Turtles. Plus, I'm happy because my store just got a pre-order sale or pre-sale. Plus, like you know, I did a trade-in thing too.
Yeah.
But I had to throw the disc out because it was ruined.
Yeah, that's good that you're able to like explain to them that at least that used one was in better shape than the one they brought in.
Well, yeah, of course. Like, I was trying to make customers for life. Like, the philosophy that I stole from other retail stores that I worked for is, when you're working with customer service, you want to give the customer not only a good experience, but also, like, you want them to remember you, so they ask for you by name. That way, you know, you have, like, repeat customers coming in forever. As long as you treat people good, people will continue to do business with you.
Yeah.
Like, look at us. We're shadow banned completely, right? But, like, we still have, like, people that adamantly try to find us every day because of how we treat them, because of how we treat gaming and stuff like that. We're different than any other content creator on YouTube. And in a sense, we do have customers for life. Look at our ultimates. How many ultimates we have, how many people keep continuing to renew the service. You know, if we were jerks to our audience, you would not have members, you would not have people that are willing to support you financially. You have to be a decent person in order to amount to that kind of stuff.
I don't know if I'm a decent person.
Yes, you are.
I'm trying.
There are people literally that have been ultimates just so that you play the games they want you to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, you do good and you try to be a good person and people, you know.
Yeah, I have heard that like, I think there was a few places I worked at where they said you're trying to make customers for life, but they were talking about the company I'm working for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want to make them come back to their company.
So, like, when I would have a customer come into my EB Games store and I didn't have a game for him, and I was, as a customer, I just went to Funko Land because, you know, I buy video games. This is before I met you. I buy a lot of games. I love games. So I would go to retro specialty stores near Chicago. I'd go to Rockford. I do all that stuff. Even though I worked for a game store, we mostly sold games that didn't go as far back to Super Nintendo and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So if I wanted a specialty game for like Atari or an old PC CD-ROM game to run on my IBM or whatever, I would have to go to a retro store like Funko Land or whatever. So if one of my customers was looking for a game that I knew Funko Land had, I'd take them aside at the door, never at the desk, be like, let me walk you out, and be like, hey, so-and-so, that game you're looking for, they have it for this price at Funko Land. And that person will go and buy that game, and then when he's cured, and then what he would do is when he was looking for a new release for his Xbox, he would come to my store and he'd buy a bunch of Xbox games. Because, you know, I did him a solid, he came back to the store, he did me a solid.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it was creating customers for life. It was like showing them that you're kind of like a friend of the consumer as well as you have their best interest. And then based on that mentality, people just like, you know, they came back and they rewarded you in a sense. They're like, hey, I remember when this person was really nice to me. Instead of, you know, buying this game that's near where I live, I'm going to drive to Rockford to where this EB Games is. I'm going to go see Luke.
Yeah, that's
and give Luke the sale. Exactly. That's how things were done, you know, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you have GameStop employees that basically treat people like garbage. Like, there's this one viral video that's happening right now where a dude goes in with a, like, early 2000s CD player that looks really cool, and he's trying to sell it, and the GameStop employee is threatening to call the police on the guy.
Why?
Because he can't take it. But it's like, instead of saying, hey, I can't take this here, and, you know, threatening your customers, you should probably be like, okay, what you want to do is you want to take this to a music store and try to sell it there.
Yeah, why
not? Because I have no SKU for this. I can't take this.
Why not help the person out with your expertise about, I mean, you're supposed to have, like, knowledge about electronics.
The old saying goes, you catch more bees with honey. So, you know.
That's odd.
Yeah, it is. And I've been horrified to see, like, GameStop has gotten such a bad reputation over the past, like, 15 years because they're horrible to their customers. It's not just their policies suck, they also suck as humans. Like, they're just really mean and nasty for no reason.
I don't know what to say.
It's like, basically what happened, it's like EB Games turned into Xbox Live. Is what happened. Like, GameStop and EB turned into the volatile, toxic people that used to scream at people playing Halo. It's true.
I wonder what kind of people work at EB Games now.
They hire whoever, they don't care.
Yeah, I did notice, like, we were in an EB Games one time, and like, there was a person there, and she was really nice, though, at the mall. But I did notice that she didn't seem to know anything about games at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh wow. I was like, well, I guess I could work here because I didn't know that much at the time. Now I know more, but
So just getting back to our original 90s topic, just so you know, in order to have games run on your PS2 or your PlayStation or whatever that were burned, like there was a feature built into those systems after a certain date where like burned CDs didn't work anymore. You had to get your system modified. So like there was a whole market where people were, it was almost like kind of very shady stuff. You would send your system to this one like website and they would modify your system. Now originally the modification was done.
Oh wow.
The modification was a legit thing because originally it was done to play imported games.
Oh my god.
So the company, there were two companies in the US that would modify systems.
Wow.
And then those companies got shut down by the Federal Trade Commission, I believe.
Wow.
Because people were using that company's good intentions to play imports, to have like their PlayStation modified. And what it was is you would go into the board and you would modify it with like some type of chipset or something. So it would be able to read the fake CDs.
Wow.
So there was a whole business. Just like, you know how there were people that made like 3DS capture cards? They took the original 3DS and they opened it up and then they like added a mechanism so that it could basically do like an HDMI out to a television or something. It wasn't built into the original system, they modified it. So they took somebody's good intentions of wanting, because there were really cool Japanese import games like Sailor Moon, Gundam, things like that that weren't being sold in America. And, you know, not only would the modified system play like the fake CDR games, but also you would be able to play, if you bought a Japanese imported PlayStation game, you would be able to play it, no problem. As well as if you burned a ROM disc for the Super Nintendo, you could run ROMs on your, you know, your PlayStation or PS2 or whatever for a while. Of course, Sony eventually put measures in place where you could not, you know, modify the system, but Xbox made it so easy to do it that you didn't need to send it to a specialty person. You just needed to change one chip on the Xbox board, and people were doing that. And then because Xbox was trying to sell the system, like they didn't care. They were doing whatever they could, and you know, because Sony was making it so difficult for software pirates, Xbox was the system that a lot of them migrated to.
Yep.
So people don't understand that there was a whole culture of this. Like there were thousands and thousands of people doing this all over the country. It wasn't just in the East Coast. I went to this dude's house in because I thought I had grown out of it when I lived in the Chicago area or whatever. So when my dad moved us to the boonies in, you know, that one town, this one guy had an entire side business where he was modifying people's Xboxes and all this other stuff, and he had a legit job where he was making like 6 figures back in 2001 or whatever, 2002. He had a real legit job, but his hobby was piracy. So down in his basement, he had like 6 computers hooked up, as well as he had his Xbox there for his son, and every single one of the Xbox games for his son. This is a wealthy family with a legit business. Every single Xbox game you open, he would print out the pictures, the manuals on his computer. Oh, wow. And he would get the green boxes, like wholesale, and inside the box was a burned Xbox game. So he had the box art, and they had their Xbox games displayed, and it was kind of like, that's what he did. And he had people, he had young teenagers come to him with their Xboxes, and he modified. He had a whole like back room with like a workbench and a soldering thing and everything. And that was a side business for him for several years. And then here's the funny thing. He found God, and he got rid of everything. But before then, he literally had like a techno version of yo ho, a pirate's life for me. When he was doing the illegal stuff, when he was downloading the games off a website and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But he found religion, and he completely changed.
Oh, wow.
He shut down his side business. He like bought his son all legit Xbox games. He threw out all the technology, and you know, he also stopped taking those orders, and that was a lucrative side business for him, you know, because technically it wasn't illegal to modify an Xbox so it wouldn't be region locked or whatever, but he felt convicted about it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's what the Holy Spirit does. The Holy Spirit, like, convicts you of sin. And, you know, stealing is a sin. So, you know, he had a complete turnaround. And now the guy is a youth pastor somewhere. You know, he's like, he completely turned his life around.
Thank you for the super chat, Jacob. Let me read your super chat, Jacob.
Whoops. So after we do the world tour, you and I are going to play the 2-player mode for this and show off all the battle modes. And then tomorrow is Mario Kart DS.
You got a super chat from Jacob.
Thank you, Jacob.
Jacob Langlet says arcade machines. I don't know why. Alright, arcade machines are very expensive to buy, including Mario Kart Arcade, GP, 1, 2, and DX. You can get a Mario Kart arcade machine?
Yes, you can.
Wow.
Yeah, they had a deal with Namco right around the time that Double Dash came out, I believe. Or before. It was either before or after. And Namco had Pac-Man and they had other characters in the Mario Kart racing game. That you would literally... It had a chair you can sit in, and it had a race car thing. It was very big in Japan and select cities in the United States. But very few people actually own one of those because they're very, very expensive.
Yep, thank you very much, Jacob Langlet, for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Thank you for helping the channel. Hope you're having a great day, Jacob. Thank you so much.
So, my story with that kind of stuff, when I worked for EB Games and I was getting an employee discount, all the games that I had ever burned, I bought legit. So, like, I didn't have that many PlayStation games to begin with because they were so expensive. So when I worked for EB Games, like, every once in a while, I would rebuy either a PS2 game that I, you know, illegally did, or a PlayStation game, and then I threw out the burner stuff a long time ago. But that's how I, like, you know, not only was I preventing piracy in my store that I worked at in Rockford, but also, like, during that time, because I felt convicted, I threw out all the things that I'd ever burnt, which was probably, like, I don't know, 60 games. And then I found all those games, and they were so cheap then, so I just bought them all. Just so it's like I had them, even though I was never going to play them again. And then, of course, like, when I took all my games to the pawn shop guy, I sold all the PlayStation games too. Like, because I didn't really play the PlayStation anymore. And, you know, it was just kind of like, yeah, that was a rough time of my young adult life, or my teenage life. So it's like I didn't want to really remember the PlayStation, so to speak. Because, like, I did that, and then I bought the games, and then just traded them in later. But, yeah, it was a real thing. Nowadays, software piracy is completely different, but there are still people that do it. But Nintendo has, like, very strict things if you somehow do it. But what I'm concerned about is, with the whole game share thing, I think Nintendo is opening themselves up to a new form of piracy that is going to be very, very bad, where people will be able to hack systems and steal someone else's copy of the full game without ever having to pay for it, like through online or something. Because it really seems like Nintendo's not really paying attention to that kind of stuff.
Oh, we don't have a new like goal up there for the chat.
Oh. I'll get it up there.
We were at 117, now we're not even anywhere near it.
Oh, it dropped?
I mean, we have had the same like goal up there forever.
Okay, after this race I'll change it. Yeah, people like goals.
Well, if you don't put the next like goal up, people just stop liking.
Yeah, I know. After this race I'll do it. I'll remember. You reminded me, so I'll do it. Yeah, but yeah, that's why GameCube was the way it was. Like, people think it was just a gimmick. It was like Yamaguchi was trying to be smart. But the Wii discs, apparently, like, people thought because the Wii was older technology that Nintendo would allow people to basically do what the original PlayStation was. Because these weren't, the Wii discs were not DVD like PS2. They were cheap stuff, so, you know, I was on a website once And the software pirates people were complaining because they're like, it's not like the early PlayStation days where you could do this, because Nintendo has something built into the disc that prevents it from letting you copy the whole game. So Nintendo was smart with their Wii discs. And nobody knows what they did either. But a lot of these companies also use that trick that Nintendo implemented with the Wii, and that basically killed software piracy in general, outside of like people somehow creating ROMs of like Wii games and PS3 games online, which I don't know how they do that.
Yeah, Jotaro was saying PC gamers always say piracy isn't theft, but he said,
it is, yeah.
But it is.
It is. Even if you rent a game, which a lot of people did to try to make them feel less guilty. A lot of people felt like this is wrong, but I can't afford this, or I can afford this, but everybody in my school is doing this. Everybody in my neighborhood's doing this, and it's like I want to be cool too. So there's peer pressure. There's all kinds of stuff that make people do stupid stuff. And also there was no repercussions for it. The FBI and people didn't start like cracking down on that stuff until years later. And people got bored of it too, because it was expensive. Like, it wasn't easy to be able to buy all the burned discs, and your parents eventually be like, hey, what's going on? Because parents would start to take an interest because of 60 Minutes, like, news. There was a whole 60 Minutes thing on it, where they had, like, some kids were going to jail for a long time, and they were being interviewed, and they gave them the Mr. Fluffy voice. They're talking about it, so then parents would start to check. So
kids would go to jail?
I mean kids, I mean teenagers.
So they would send, like, under 18 people to jail?
Some people went to juvie if they got caught, especially if they were, how some people got caught is what they were doing is they were selling the burned games at school.
Oh.
Yep. And also they were trying to sell the burned games to, like, stores. If you tried to sell a CDR game to GameStop or something, they'd call the police on you, because they would know that you're a software pirate.
Yeah, I can't understand why you would... How would you try to sell it? You wouldn't even have the box.
They would print out the boxes. You could easily go to a wholesale company and get, like, because PlayStation discs were just CDs. So you would get wholesale. You could get the
white boxes, or what color are they, blue or something? And then you just blue plastic boxes, and you just...
No, you're thinking of DVDs.
Oh.
Like GameCube was a tiny disc. Oh. PlayStation games came in CDs.
And
CD cases.
It just had a... Yeah, so... Oh, I see. So it was a CD case.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember one guy came in with a bunch of trades once. And I had to tell my manager because we had to look out for it. So I felt really bad. There was this guy, I don't know, he looked like he was his 20s. He looked stoned out of his mind, though. So he came to our store, and he had, like, all these pristine cases of PlayStation games that he had printed out. Inside of the thing, he was trying to trade in toward, like, a PS2 or something. Inside of the discs, they were all CDRs. And my boss saw that, and he told me to keep him there talking to the guy, and the police came and arrested him.
That is insane.
Yeah. Because it's not
I don't know why they would try to sell it to a game store. You would think...
Because they get desperate for cash, and that was when, people weren't really doing stuff with that anymore. Like, it was a phase. It was a part of our gaming culture. It was a phase.
So... Wow. I don't know why they would think that the game store employees would not realize that that is not legitimate.
No, because also they're trying to... He got arrested because he was trying to rip off the store. Like, he's thinking that,
he'll give a bunch of fake games for
like $100 or something like that. Yeah, and trade-ins. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Yep.
Yeah. It's like giving someone a fake $20 bill.
Something like that. But I mean, there were people that tried to do that. There were eBay. Like, if you bought something on eBay, you had to be very careful that it was the real discs. So some people would ask people on eBay. Yeah. They'd be like, hey, I'm selling this really rare Marvel vs. Capcom 2 thing. And it's like, you would demand the guy show you if it was a real disc or not.
And if you didn't have your PlayStation modified, you couldn't play it?
No.
So what if you bought it off of eBay and you didn't have a modified PlayStation? Then you couldn't even play it.
Exactly, it's just a CD. Yep. You had to have the chip modified in it. And again, the modification, just like people say, emulation is totally legal. It is in a sense, if you own the game. But the problem is people were doing stuff that they didn't own. Like I said, I rented stuff mostly. I never did the thing where I bought the game fully and then returned it the next day. Like, you know, I rented it, and that's how I felt. Like, oh, you know. And also, like, I was very careful with, there was a fast method to burn games that would ruin the games, and there was a slow method. So, you know, I would put my CD burner on, and it would take like a day or so, and the disc wouldn't get damaged. So it's like, I felt like, you know, I'm not really doing any harm because the disc is not ruined, and, you know, I didn't really get to play the game at all because it took all weekend to burn it. So that's how I justified it. But, you know, eventually, like I said, I felt deeply convicted about it. And, you know, when I had my job at EV Games, because I only burned it for like maybe a year or two. I didn't do it very long. It was very easy to get PlayStation games because of how cheap they were. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'd just gotten a PlayStation not long after that, so, because I was a PC gamer for years. PC and Super Nintendo, N64. And N64 games were so expensive, so I couldn't have another console. N64 games were like 50, 60 bucks, except for Player's Choice stuff. So, like, if I wanted to play PlayStation, there was no other alternative. And that's how it was for a lot of people. But yeah, there was methods to doing it that didn't damage stuff. It's the people that were in a hurry were the ones that were ruining stuff. Dun, dun, dun. But eventually, PC stores stopped selling the CDR burner programs and other things. You'd have to get them through eBay and other things because, like I said, the retail companies started, like, what do they call it, chomp down on that kind of stuff because they realized that people were just buying CDRs to you know, burn video games and burn CDs and things like that.
Not to make like a CD of their family vacation or something.
Yeah, a CD of their family vacation, make a CD of like data storage, or, you know, make a copy of something that you own. There's all kinds of reasons. So the CD burning programs went out of business, basically, because like they were getting heavy, I don't know what they call it. They were getting a lot of scrutiny, and the 60 Minutes story didn't help anything. So even the person who was legally modifying stuff like had his whole company shut down, and then that kit would then circulate. The kit didn't disappear. It ended up on like the black market on the internet, and people would buy them from sellers and send their systems to be modified by like just normal people. But yeah, eventually game companies like Nintendo and other people cracked down on making it impossible to do it, so it wasn't worth it. It was too expensive.
Yeah.
But people don't really talk about that side of the what gaming was like 20, 30 years ago, but there was a whole thing about that.
Yeah, they probably don't talk about it because they don't want to get in trouble.
You can't really get in trouble in a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
Statute of limitations is 10 years. It was like 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And also, I bought all my games after a while anyway. Like, I threw out the bad ones and I bought the legit ones. As well as, you know, when I worked at the game store, I prevented that kind of stuff from happening. At least in my store in Rockford. And I taught the people in, like, our branch stores what to look for as well. So.
Yeah. People of the chat, hope you guys are doing... Hope you guys are doing well.
So, anyway, basically people are saying now, they're warning Nintendo based on their prices. They're like, we're going to go back to what we did in the early 2000s and the late 90s, and we're just going to like start burning games again. And it's like, there's no way you're going to be able to do it because, for one, it's a tiny little SD card.
Oh.
There's no way to do that.
Yeah, the saying was you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, says Miss Deanna. That was a while ago.
Yeah,
though.
yep.
You guys are amazing. Thank you, Nicholas. Hi, everyone. Hope you guys are all having a nice day today. Great to see everyone in the chat. Hope everyone's doing well. I don't have the ability to pin a new light goal, Tim.
I'm
sorry.
It says 130. Is it already past 130? Whoa.
Yeah, Luke just wants 130. That's his, like, goal.
Yeah, if it's past 130, I'll update it again. That's awesome.
No, it's not.
Ah, okay, then we're right on target. Excuse me. Oh, good times. There we go.
Goal.
Goal! Alright, time for the dreaded Rainbow Road. And then, Amber, it's time to battle.
What?
Yeah, we're battling each other.
Okay. What are we doing to battle each other?
You remember the balloon battle and stuff like that? We're gonna show all the new courses that we got from that. Take about like 20 minutes and then the stream's over. And then it's time for Xenoblade.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you were asking me before, like, with GameCube, like, with Nintendo doing the old PlayStation stuff, it put a squeeze on game developers because they would release the same game on Xbox and PlayStation, right? But the game would be less expensive for them to get that small disc, and also there's more space. So they were running into problems where the games, if they were multi-disc, they were getting ruined. And, you know, parents would complain and say the game is defective or whatever when it wasn't. It's just the disc either wore out or it got damaged. And because there were multiple discs that had other, you know, parts of the game on it, created a problem. Because Sony and Xbox, their full game was on the disc. Like with PS2.
Yeah.
There was no multi-discs anymore.
Yeah.
So Nintendo was basically like 15 years behind the technology curve with distributing their discs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's why GameCube failed, though. The disc gimmick, the software support, all that stuff. 20 minutes? Okay, sweet. I mean, this is my last race. Okay. Now the only reason I'm doing really well here, guys, is because this is 50 cc's. I'm not very good at Rainbow Road, but I'm not even really driving this thing very well. I'm just kind of barely touching the accelerator. No. Banana. Okay. What, honey? Oh. 14. 14. Okay. Yeah. Well, no, I didn't hear you because the TV's still loud. So I thought I lowered the TV. What's up, Blinky? Whoa. Well, I don't even see how I got the star. I don't really need it. I'm just gonna lap people eventually. Right. Oh, nice and easy. Nice and easy, Mr. Piranha Man. Yatta! Almost there. Hello, Link. Oh. Beep, beep. Almost there. Ah, doesn't matter. Yeah, I know. The credits are gonna play for 2 minutes, sweetie. You got time. You got the time. 160. Flawless victory. So the reason why I had to go through 50 CCs, guys, is we're trying to do this 100% because why not? Once we get... Supposedly, because we did 50 CCs, we're going to get the background change and unlock the last course or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember. Now, just so you guys know, like, Mario Kart DS I'm not very good at. So Mario Kart DS is going to be rough. It's going to be very rough. I love the double dash credits. Oh, this computer's completely locked up. I mean, they might Soniczilla. You'll probably get Mario Kart Double Dash in a couple years on Switch 2's like GameCube section. Like, I wouldn't put it past them. It's a very popular thing. You need to put really popular games on your download service or your, you know, your perks for memberships. And they have a lot of great games coming to the GameCube classics from, like, Mario Sunshine and no Smash Brothers, but a bunch of other stuff. Very long. So basically 16 courses takes quite a while. But it's a lot of fun. So basically the whole 16 courses thing is kind of like what's going on in Mario Kart World where you keep racing indefinitely. Except, you know, in Mario Kart World you're literally going to drive to where you need to go. Which, I don't know, it's kind of a cool concept, I guess. I just don't really know how someone would do episodic content. Yeah, I think you're right, Jotaro. I don't think that we'll get a collection for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, which are both better versions of the originals. We'll get the GameCube version of Twilight Princess as well. Hey, there it is, the final picture. So that means it's 100%. I'm pretty sure. Thank you so much for playing my game. Yep. Of course. There you go, guys. 100%. Yahoo! Yep, come here, big guy. No. Whoa! Well, I tried to move him. He doesn't want to move. Oh, my goodness. I can't believe it. Well, people keep saying that Mario Kart Double Dash is a lot easier, and as someone who's not very good at Mario Kart, I'm proof of that. Yeah, don't expect me to 100% Mario Kart DS. Mario Kart DS is going to be, the struggle is real. Pretty sure. I'm excited to cover Mario Kart DS tomorrow, though. You know, I had a very strange thing happen on the Mario Kart video that I released the other day, guys. Like, somebody was like, you keep talking about all these Mario Kart games you guys are playing. They said, but what's a DS? And I was like, what? And I responded to the guy, I said, you're trolling, right? And they said, no, seriously, it's like, what's a Nintendo DS? And I said, well, I mean, it came out 20 years ago. It was Nintendo's dual screen system. And we're going to be looking at Mario Kart DS on it. And they're like, oh, they said, well, I'm 17. And I was like, what? It's like, how could a 17-year-old not know what a DS is? It's like, he says, I know what a 3DS is. I was like, okay, stop talking to me. You're making me old. But I just had this moment where I was just kind of staring, like, there are people that don't know what the DS is? How can you call yourself a gamer and not know what the Nintendo DS is or Game Boy Advance? It's like, what? How can you call yourself a Nintendo fan? What is happening?
I mean, I would have just looked it up on Google if I didn't know what it was.
Exactly.
Like, we had to look up what Atari was. I mean, and Neo Geo, we didn't know what it was.
I knew what a Neo Geo was. I played a Neo Geo, like in the arcades. Neo Geo. 4 white buttons and 2 joysticks. Neo Geo. Blah, 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 blah. Alright, so we're gonna do Balloon Battle, Shine Thief, and Bomb Blast. Showing you guys the new stages. Okay. It's 209. Battles!
Alright, thank you for watching the shorts, everyone. Really appreciate your help.
Yeah, it was weird though. I was like, what? You can't be serious, because I thought every Nintendo fan knows what a DS is. Let's go.
Oh, and
yes?
Miss Deanna sent something on Twitter about the information about Nintendo's pre-order stuff.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Miss Deanna. I'll look it over after the stream. I'm gonna go with the babies. Baby. Yay!
I think I'll go with the ladies then.
Okay, babies versus the ladies.
Babies versus ladies.
Yep. You can pick whatever card you want.
We'll go with Birdo's card.
Yeah. Alright, so you can see there's 2 new additions. Like, so we did the Cookie Land, we did the Block City, we did Nintendo GameCube and Pipe Plaza, so we're just doing Luigi's Mansion and Tilt-A-Cart. Let's start with Tilt-A-Cart. Oh, you have to double tap it. Okay, so this was a stage that was unlocked, and what made this stage so fun back in the day is you would play with 4 players. Like, playing with 2 players battle is not quite as exciting as playing with, like, you know, 2 other people as well, because it gets kind of hectic and crazy.
Yeah.
But nothing beat the original Mario Kart 64's battle mode. That was peak. It just was.
Oh wow, it's tilting now.
Yeah, well, it's called Tilty. Like, I don't think you can fall off, though. I don't believe so. Actually, you know what? I never tested this. Can you actually fall off? Yes, you can!
Whoops. Well...
Now you don't. And then they take a balloon.
Testing that,
I tested... Well, I thought they had other measures in place, but you can actually knock people off. If you manage to knock somebody off, what'll happen is, like, they'll get more, they'll lose 2 balloons, because the damage from you hitting them with a shell, and then the damage of them falling off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like a twofer.
Thanks for explaining all that to me.
You're welcome. Well, we won't be able to play Mario Kart DS together, so... Or Mario Kart 7, but we'll be able to play this, Mario Kart Wii, Mario Kart 8. People are like, why would you show the original Mario Kart 8? It's like, why not? It's like, it's a Mario Kart game. It's the whole point. Because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe will take, like, almost an entire month to get through. You know? So basically, like, May will be mostly Mario Kart 8 Deluxe again. Nice shot. Yay!
Okay, you had a question from somebody coming into the chat. They said, are you planning on getting Mario Kart World? It's like...
Yes.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this.
We've said...
The Road 2.
Yeah, this is the Road 2. We said that the games that we're covering for Switch 2, the first week, will be Mario Kart World, Breath of the Wild, because we only have to pay like $10 to get it again. We're not going to be paying for the DLC. We're just going through the base game in 4K, and Soul Calibur 2, because that's free with the thingy. Alright, so...
Well, what's free? Soul Calibur is free with... Oh, with
we're Nintendo members.
With the expansion pack.
Yeah, right. So we'll be doing Soul Calibur 2, because Soul Calibur 2 is cool. Wow. A tale of souls and swords, eternally retold. I almost looked at the game on the channel a long time ago, but I'm kind of excited to see the HD enhanced version. So this is Luigi's Mansion. This is actually came back as a battle stage, I believe, in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Oh, wow, yes. I do remember this.
Mm-hmm. This is the original stage for it. But did you know it's not until Mario Kart DS that Luigi's Mansion actually shows up as a race course in the Mario Kart franchise?
Oh, wow.
So tomorrow we're going to see Luigi's Mansion as one of the stages in
So we get to
Mario
figure
Kart.
out where all of these, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe tracks are from, because that had all kinds of different tracks from different games.
Every Mario Kart game had a track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Yep. As well as battle stages, all kinds of fun stuff. Because it was a celebration. So the new Mario Kart World game coming out is like basically Mario Kart 9. So it's not an anniversary game. Technically, the anniversary, the game that celebrated the 30th anniversary of Mario Kart was Mario Kart Deluxe. Especially when they announced, hey, we're doing Season Pass stuff all the way until like 2023 or something. I think that's what didn't they do like 4 years of DLC or something? Yeah.
I think so.
And then, I mean, Diddy should have been a playable character in the beginning, but they made him as DLC.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I heard. I don't know if I ever played as Diddy.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Type Kwingsletsplays Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and you'll see Diddy come.
No!
You hurt the babies! You'll pay. Told you. Oh, darn. Oh, no. No! Ah! The baby's lost. The babies are sad. Okay, Amber's leading by 2. Okay, alright.
I'm on the board with 2.
Alright, we're gonna go to my favorite one in this one. Block City is lame. Everybody was like, oh, Block City is gonna be like the Block City from the N64. No. No, it's not. It's super lame. We're going to Cookie Land. I love Cookie Land. Cookie Land is great.
Yay!
Yay, cookies! Remember, guys, watch the shorts if you haven't already. Really helps out the channel tremendously. Bam.
Oh, this is cute. I'd like to see this in like a modern Mario Kart game. That would be cute. I like the Cookie Land thing.
I don't know my favorite part about working at the game store in the early 2000s. We had a GameCube set up in our store where people would come in and they would like they were regulars. So not only would they buy stuff, but they would hang out at the store playing like the GameCube marquee, which we alternated games. We had like Mario Kart Double Dash, we had Smash Brothers Melee.
Yes.
And you'd have like 4 people come in and play it at a time, and it just, I don't know, it made it feel like more like a gamer store. So we had full games that people could play on the marquee, and it's not like they could steal anything because it had like this plastic thingy around it. It was kind of like an accordion or something like that. it was stretchy, but you couldn't steal the controller, or you couldn't get to the system because it was behind glass.
You're not even trying to hit me at all.
Yes, I am.
Really?
Yeah, you'll pay. Dang it.
Yes, about your gaming story.
Well, that was my gaming story.
You said you had like a whole setup for GameCube.
Yeah, most stores did. You could, instead of like having it be a demo, it was the full game. Yep. And we would swap it out like a couple times a week.
Alright.
Baby Mario. Oh yeah. Giant banana.
So you had a whole. Can you explain it again? Since I was trying to kill you at the time.
Oh, I see. You mean
you had a display case, and then you would swap it out, meaning you'd play whatever system was on the display case with the...
Well, we had a lock. Sometimes Nintendo would send demo discs.
Oh, I see.
And it was basically it wasn't as good as PlayStation's
Oh, that you
discs.
could play it in the store.
Yeah, yeah.
So you could play it was like locked onto the store floor.
So we would take a key and you would go up to it and you would unlock it and you put another game in. And we were actually running used games. We weren't running a new game in there. It was a used copy.
So that was like a demo. They would send like a demo system. Or no.
No, it was like for demonstration purposes.
Mm.
Alright, Amber's the winner of Balloon Battle. Let's do Shine Thief. Yay, Shine Thief.
Shine Thief.
Love Shine Thief. Alright, I'm going with Diddy Kong. Because I want to go fast.
Well, we haven't played as Yoshi yet. And I guess I'll go with Baby Mario.
Okay. Here we go. We're going back to Luigi. Oh, no. Luigi Mansion. Bam.
So, you guys would play it in the back room, or it's like on the show floor?
No, it was on the floor.
So, it would be a demo for a new game, but you guys would swap out, like... You guys would just swap in different used games and play them?
No, they didn't have a demo. Like, every once in a while... There was only 2 demos that ever released that I remember for the GameCube. Okay. It had Soul Calibur 2 demo, a couple other games.
You were saying you can play them in the background of the... Well, I completely missed what you were saying.
Okay, so people would come into the store.
Yeah.
And there'd be like 4 or 5 of them, and they would have like Mario Kart tournaments, or they would have like Smash Brothers tournaments. They'd hang out in the store, and they would play the marquee. It was like they were regulars.
Oh.
But they were just kind of there to hang out and play the free game system that was hooked up.
Oh, that's what I meant. That's what I'm talking about with the demo system. The free game system that's hooked up.
Yep, and some game collectors even have those old like GameCube marquee things set up in their gaming rooms.
Oh wow! How did you get one of those?
You could only get them if you used to work at EB Games or you went to an auction and you buy it. They're very expensive though. The television and the system are connected, and you would use a key to change the game.
Okay.
Yeah. Just think of it kind of like an arcade, but with a controller. It was like a big heavy metal thing.
How did you go through the air? Oh, I don't know how you went up there.
Oh, I'm just driving around. You have to, in order to steal the shine, you have to hit me. So I'm just running away from you.
Well, that's a little bit difficult.
Exactly, I am going to make it difficult because I don't want to get hit.
I don't know where you went.
Right here! Victory is mine! Woo!
That was frustrating.
Monkey power!
Curse you, Toadette.
Woohoo! Yeah, the whole point of the shine is to get away from the...
I thought if you just bump into the person, you could get the shine.
Maybe. I think so. I think you just have to touch me. I don't know.
Alright.
I just hit you with the shell just in case. Aha!
Well, it didn't work. I bumped into you. I don't even see you.
Right here! Now you see me, now you don't. Where am I?
I don't see you at all. Oh no.
Goodbye! You gotta hit me. You can't get the shine just by touching me.
I should have let you keep telling your story.
Huh? What story? I was already over with that one. How long will Amber keep the shine?
I should get you on another topic. Well, I think that the Nintendo prices for games are quite reasonable.
Wait, what?
In fact, I think they should be more.
What? No, that's a terrible idea, because what it's going to do is it's going to cause the market to... Wait, I see what you're trying to do. Ah! I lost the shine.
I was thinking, if you did want to get a lot of hate comments and views right now, you could just be a sellout for Nintendo and say everything they're doing is great, and then have people write hateful things on your video.
Yeah, but Nintendo goes up against common sense, so I stand for common sense, so I can't do that.
You could just stand for making views.
No. No. I have to be honest. I'm not thrilled with it, so I have to be honest.
Oh, come on, Luke.
No. I can clickbait and make people think it's a aggressive video when it isn't. I'm already doing that.
Or you could do what they do on other... I've seen some YouTubers, they'll say the opposite of what's normal to say. Like, you can make a video that says, I'm really happy with Nintendo's pricing system. And then you could say that at the beginning of your video. I'm really happy with Nintendo's pricing system, is what I'd say if I was losing my mind. But Nintendo's pricing system is not good. I have seen people say that on videos, where they say the opposite of a normal take, and they do say it at the beginning of their video, and they have it in their thumbnail, but then they go and say the opposite thing later.
Right. Remember, guys, watch the shorts. Super important.
So
remember, there's also radar, so you can find where the other person is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alright. Wait, where's my star? It's back here.
Yep.
We left it.
Oh, no. Oh, no, I messed up again. Oh, you got heat.
Yeah, right, you...
No! All I have is stupid mushrooms. What's that gonna do? Oh, that's just wrong. Ah!
Now I'm having fun.
Okay, alright. I see what's happening here. Yeah, so you have an arrow that points where the shine is. They're like, quickly, get to the shine.
Oh.
No, I'm gonna lose. Nuts. Alright, well played, well played. Okay, that's shine. Change battle. Okay, so we did shine. Now it's time for bomb blast. And this is the last thing.
This one doesn't look fun.
Well, I mean, you throw bombs. It's all about blowing things up. Bomb blast. Let's see. Who do I want my final character to be? I'll do these guys. Just find out. That's how we started this whole series, was with the Bowser Kart. And that's how we're gonna end it.
Alright, well, I don't know how I should end.
Whatever you want.
I guess I'll be Mario and Luigi. Thanks for playing with me, Luke.
Yeah, of course. Come on, guys, click the shorts. You have to hit 8 again. 8. You have to hit A again, sweet.
I have to call for aid again.
Yeah, that too. Tilt-a-cart! Bomb blast! Now, all these are bombs. So you have stars on the side. When you lose your stars, or yeah, when the stars are filled in, you lose. Make sense? Ah, shoot.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Vengeance is mine, saith Piranha Plant. Wait, what? Ah! Hey now!
Sorry. Wait. Oh, I get a star when I do something good or when I'm losing?
You have to keep your stars black to win.
Oh. Whoops. Well.
Oh, wait. No, you have to fill them in to win. Sorry.
Oh.
I got it wrong. Ha 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 ha.
Are you kidding me?
Oh! Yeah, no, I'm not kidding you.
This is crazy.
It is crazy. It's all about throwing bombs! It's supposed to be crazy fun. It's the whole thing.
Hmm.
Oh!
Yay!
Beep beep.
I like how in these games the car looks like an actual cart, whereas in the modern games it looks like a car.
The one that we'll be playing tomorrow, they look like carts, and then by Mario Kart 7 they start to look... But I mean, most of the ones in this do have like different designs to the carts. They all look like different old...
Yes. I want to get you talking so I can beat you. Oh my god, if I don't have a chance. Oh no, Luigi's being dragged at this point.
Put Luigi out of his misery then.
Terrible.
Oh!
Well, I feel like this is gonna go on forever.
Do not underestimate my bombing skills.
Are you kidding me? I didn't even get a single hit.
What just happened? Where are you? Oh, there you are. Oh, too late.
Yay.
Yeah, the bomb stuff can go on for a while. It's fun though. It's all about blowing the other person up.
Yeah, I can imagine this would get crazy with 4 people.
With 4 people? Oh, it doesn't last very long with 4 people.
I wonder if they'll bring this one for Mario Kart World. I think that would be pretty fun.
I don't know what modes. We're gonna find out tomorrow at the Nintendo Direct, like what they're doing.
They have a lot of fun Mario Kart stages to choose from.
But now they keep saying that the Mario Kart Direct is gonna be even shorter now. Now it's only 15 minutes long.
Maybe they don't feel like talking to their fans since their fans hate them.
The fans don't hate them. The fans don't like the price of the games being that high. It's a point of contention that people are not happy about it, and the fact that Nintendo's being like so like tone deaf with it. Even Sony would at least try to be like, hey, this is what's going on. The way Doug Bowser did it on April 2nd is a lot better how they've been handling PR all this like past 2 weeks now. Like, as former Nintendo people say, like Nintendo PR people, they're like, what in the world is Nintendo doing? Because, I mean, it's really hurting their brand. So it doesn't make any sense what's going on. From a marketing standpoint and from a fan standpoint, it's completely like... I don't know what to say. I'm shocked. I'm still stunned. Because
it's interesting because since Doug Bowser worked under Reggie, he knows that that's not the way Reggie did it.
Right, but also that guy worked under EA, and that's exactly how EA would do things. Whatever the EA can do to make a profit, that's what EA does. So Nintendo's kind of becoming the new EA in a sense.
But isn't Nintendo a more successful company than EA?
Yes.
So... I don't know. I guess he just went back to his old ways.
Well, I mean, he has a boss who's very similar to his way of executing things. Both of them come from very, like, stark business backgrounds. The current president of Nintendo of Japan and Doug Bowser is the president of America. You don't have people in power who are very consumer friendly, as well as who understand what gamers are able to do and what gamers can't do. Like, they don't have that. Even Reggie said, you know, back in the day, Doug Bowser was, like, always hanging out in the arcades and, you know, blah, 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 blah. But it looks like when Doug Bowser is even talking about retro games, he has no idea what he's talking about.
So Reggie was just covering for him.
I don't know necessarily if Reggie was covering for him. Maybe Reggie really thought that, you know, Doug, because his name is Bowser, that means he was a big gamer, but he's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what I saw a lot of in your comments section, talking about, like, calculating the price of. They're like, so if I'm gonna get 6 or 7 games, they're like calculating that out. They're like, This is gonna be this amount. They're like, how am I gonna do that? So I think, like, a lot, if you were a gamer, you'd know that you'd be buying more than, you know, 2 games. I feel like maybe the way Doug Bowser's thinking of it, it's like everyone's just gonna buy 1 or 2 games, whereas that's not. You know, you'd have to buy it. They would buy a lot of them.
You've got between June 5th and August 1st, there will be over 75 Switch 2 games.
Yeah.
And out of those 75, 25 are ports of PlayStation and Xbox games.
Yeah.
And out of that 70, 15 are Switch 1 enhanced games.
Yeah, and I mean, not to mention, like, you know, like with the 3DS and stuff, there was, like, Nintendogs and all this stuff.
Yep.
For people, trying to introduce people to gaming, brain age, for people that are older that wanted to improve their brain age, and, like, there was a lot of stuff that people could play even if they weren't gamers that could get them into the Wii U and the Wii, and so I didn't even see a lot of that. I didn't even get to see that in the Nintendo presentation. It was just like, oh, we're making a Switch, but now it's going to be 1,000 times more powerful.
Super Switch.
I was like, okay, well, but yeah, so I don't know, I guess we'll just look to innovation from the third-party people. I don't know.
Yep. So anyway, guys, that concludes our Mario Kart Double Dash coverage. So tomorrow at this time will be Mario Kart DS.
I don't know which one of us won.
Actually, we tied.
We tied! Great job, Luke. Good game. Good job.
we tied.
What I really care about is who won.
That's fine. Yes, we tied. It's a tie game. So anyway, guys, Xenoblade is next, starting up at a little past 6 o'clock. So we hope you guys will tune in for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then there'll be a mystery stream tonight. So mystery stream could be on anything. You never know. Like, even I don't know what it could be on. So it's a mystery
even
stream.
Luke doesn't know.
Nope. I usually take like a couple hours to think about what I'm going to do. But we hope you guys enjoyed Mario Kart Double Dash, and we hope to see you all for Mario Kart DS as we continue our road to Mario Kart World.
Thank you for the super chat from Jacob and from anyone else who super chatted. Appreciate you very much. Thank you for the help.
Just Jacob. All right, guys. See you on Xenoblade starting up next. God bless. Happy gaming.
See ya.